cringy. There was like Grumpy Sunshine, there was Enemies to Lovers, there was Single Dad, there was Nanny. It was just a lot going on. Oh, I just love a new book. Please, Lyla Sage, I would love to see that. Nailed it. Hiya lovely, Athena here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going over every single book I read in January. But first up, I want to share my current read with you. So I am currently reading Love Light Farms by BK Borison and I am loving it so far. I'm about halfway through and I am finding it to be just so freaking cute and February coded. Okay, onto the video. I read 5 books this month and I am actually so proud of how many books I managed to read. Okay, I am just going to jump right into it and start giving you my thoughts and star ratings. So here are the 5 books I read this month. First off, I finished a book I started reading late December and that is Mixed Signals by BK Borison. This one is an absolute banger and I cannot recommend this Love Light Farm series enough. I kind of chaotically decided to start reading this series with the last one in the whole series because that's the one that I was interested in most, and when I looked it up online it said it was like an interconnected standalone situation and that you could read them out of order. I would say though that if you wanted to read this series I would recommend reading it in order because I had a lot of spoilers for previous couples in these later books. Like I literally knew from this one book all of the couples and exactly the way that everyone turned out. But I honestly didn't mind all that much and it was even kind of cute to know going into it that everyone has a stunning happily ever after. So this book follows Layla and Caleb. Layla is a baker and Caleb is a teacher. And just a side note, something about the way that food was woven into this book was so gorgeous to read about. And yeah, it was just so stunning. Without spoiling anything, the plot is basically that Layla and Caleb have both struggled with dating and come up with the genius idea of dating each other, not only to experience higher standards but also to figure out kind of what they're doing wrong. They lock in the time frame of 1 month of dating each other and then agree to kind of evaluate at the end of that time period. This was the first BK Borison book that I read and I feel like BK Borison just does such a good job of describing what it feels like to develop feelings for somebody and fall in love and the complex way that can often feel. I really related to the way that Layla struggled to believe that she deserved to find her one true love after so much time of navigating men who just didn't care about her. And Caleb's grandmother is such a cute side character and throughout the book gives him so many little pep talks and I found myself just bawling my eyes out multiple times in this book. This is my favorite romance book I've literally ever read and I rated this book 5 stars. Okay, then I picked up Lost and Lassoed by Lyla Sage. And this one I actually DNF'd back in December because I was really wigged out by the age gap. And I don't know what happened, but I didn't really want to just skip to the last book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series because I knew there would be spoilers for how the couple from this book ended up. And I figured if I did get FOMO at that point, there would be no going back without spoilers. So I kind of just ended up giving this book another go with the intention that if it pissed me off again, I would just DNF it for good. But somehow Lyla Sage convinced me to keep reading and here I am having kind of enjoyed the book. So this one follows Teddy and Gus and has not one but 2 tropes that I typically hate: an age gap and enemies to lovers. Honestly, I didn't really like the tropes at all, but I feel like from about halfway in it was a little bit less childish, which I feel like these kind of tropes can often kind of lean towards a more childish approach. Even in the way that kind of in a cringy way in this book, the main character Gus was like, oh, she annoys me so much, I really just want to like pull her ponytail. Like to me, that is just very immature and childish, especially as somebody who has a child. Like Gus is a single father of a full-on 8-year-old and I thought it was kind of cringy how, yeah, he was quite immature and they're like, I don't like Teddy just because she bothers me. I don't know. I think that's a bit childish and a little bit reminded me of like immature boys in a playground. But anyway, from about halfway on, that wasn't really so much a theme, and somewhere along the way it kind of softened into more of a likable romance for me. Basically, the plot of this book is that Teddy is a friend of Gus's family, and Gus has a child with one of the characters from another book in the series, and is also the manager of his family's this ranch, like farming ranch. And so I guess he's a little bit overwhelmed with all that workload. And one way or another, he basically ends up employing Teddy to be a live-in nanny for his daughter Riley. Overall, I found Teddy's part of the story to be kind of funny and relatable. I enjoyed her humor, and I feel like it softened, in my opinion, how boring and bland Gus was. Okay, just a side note, if the lighting starts to change, it's because the sun is setting and it's a kind of stormy afternoon. So normally I would have a little bit longer to film. But yeah, if the lighting starts to change, pay no mind to it. It's just the sun setting. But yeah, I really wanted to fit this January wrap up into sort of the end of January, early February season. So it's kind of on time for you. But overall, this book felt very trope heavy to me. There was like grumpy sunshine, there was enemies to lovers, there was single dad, there was nanny. It was just a lot going on. And I feel like it almost overwhelmed me in a way that kind of made it all fall kind of flat when it was all mixed together. And to me, it just kind of made it seem like Gus was just this like mean, grumpy, boring character. And in the end, I ended up feeling like, honestly, Teddy deserved a little bit better. And I feel like she kind of just settled for what she was familiar with. It did get kind of emotional in the end though, when everyone was like communicating about the way that the relationship would impact Gus's daughter, and I feel like that really softened my dislike for the book and raised my star rating. Ultimately, this was just a very mid book for me. It wasn't bad, it wasn't good. I was kind of just reading it to get to the next book in the series, and overall I am glad that I read it, but I would say that it's my least favorite in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I gave this a 3 stars. Okay, then I read Business Casual by BK Borison. This was me working my way back through the Lovelight Farm series, and I loved this one. This follows Nova, the tattoo artist, and Charlie, the city corporate guy. These two characters have known each other for quite a while. They're kind of longtime friends, but they do have this playful banter between them and this sort of dislike, teasing sort of energy. And it becomes clear right away that Charlie has seemingly had a bit of a subtle interest in Nova for quite some time, but just knew that it was kind of unrequited, so never really acted on it. However, one night Nova has a little bit of a mentee bee and decides that she really wants to sleep with someone, and she basically sets her eyes on Charlie as that someone. From there, they decide to embark on a casual relationship where inevitably lines end up getting a little bit blurred and they have to navigate their changing connection. Because I had already read Mixed Signals, I really enjoyed knowing that these two had their happily ever after, and I think something about that was like even more fun to see their process of getting to the cute couple I knew them to be in Mixed Signals. I felt like their character development was stunning and really well done. I love how realistic BK Borison's writing is, and you can see very clearly how the characters get from the start of the book to the end of the book and the way that they have to develop to become the people they are at the end of the book. I gave this one 5 stars. This next one I actually still haven't unboxed because I did actually read this one on Audible and, well, technically listen to it, but I ordered it in the mail because when I finished it I wanted somewhere to put my annotations, and honestly I enjoy rereading like a physical copy of a book after I've read the Audible version of it or a library app or whatever I listen to it on. So let's open this together. Here it is, the stunning Wilde and Wrangled by Lyla Sage. Oh, I just love a new book. I feel like I really, really like the covers of this series as well. Something about it is just really pretty, and the colors are just so bright and so stunning. Yeah, they're just very, very pretty, and I really enjoy when an author goes to the effort, or publisher or whoever does it, goes to the effort of creating a really pretty book, because yeah, I feel like they know us romance readers love an aesthetic, beautiful book. So Wilde and Wrangled is the 4th book that I read this month, and it is the last book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and I absolutely devoured this one in like 2 days because the main characters had been featured in literally every other book in the series, and I was so desperate to figure out what had happened and how they would all turn out. This book follows Cam and Dusty and picks up on the day of Cam's wedding, but her wedding is to some random other guy. I can't even remember his name, maybe like Garrett? That sounds not true.
A few moments later.
I think his name was Graham. Cam and Dusty dated in high school, but had since broken up for kind of unknown reasons. And Cam even ended up having a child with Dusty's older brother, Gus. So there was a lot of baggage, and if you love drama and gossip like me, you'll love how much tea was in this book. I loved getting all the now and then timelines that showed the history between Cam and Dusty and what their falling out was. I also thought the way that Cam's family issues was described was really well done. Although I will say it felt a little bit unrealistic to me that she would go from having such a problem with knowing what she wants and then all of a sudden figuring that out in the last few chapters. I did think though that the ending of this book was really cute, and I was genuinely crying for all the couples in this series and the way they all found their happily ever afters. And that bonus chapter about one of the couples in the series was literally everything. If you know, you know. I will say though that I really hope that Lyla Sage eventually writes a book for the father of the kind of main family in this series. I think his name was Amos. I would love to see a little bit of their love story and their time before the ranch. Something about that I feel like, yeah, would just be stunning, and their relationship is kind of hinted at and like mentioned a lot in the series. So yeah, I just love Amos, and I can't remember what his wife's name was, but anyway, I would love to see a book about them, or maybe even just like a little novella about their relationship. Please, Lyla Sage, I would love to see that. Overall, I was surprised in the end how much I ended up loving this book series, and I recommend this to anyone looking for just a cute, light-hearted romance. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Okay, then the last book I read this month was Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I actually have been reading this one since I started reading again back in last October, and I finally finished it this month. I don't think I could possibly fit all of my feelings and thoughts about this book into one monthly wrap-up video, but I'm going to try my best. Basically, this follows Sadie and Sam, and a few other characters as well. Basically, this follows Sadie and Sam from their childhood years all the way up until their near 40s. This book is your classic literary fiction that has a plot, but is mostly about the characters and the way they go about life. The scope of this book was absolutely brilliant, even including the most fascinating things like alternative universes and alternate timeline. Even the way this book evoked emotions was incredible. I was crying more than I wasn't, which is part of why it took me so long to read this one, because I simply had to take breaks, otherwise I think my heart would have just exploded. This book is one of my all-time favorites and is one I will be recommending to everyone I know forever and ever. I wish I could give this 1,000,000 stars, but settled for giving it 5. Okay, that is everything that I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for joining me for my January reading wrap-up. I hope you maybe found some good recommendations. I hope you have a really beautiful day. Bye! Testing. Yeah! I swear, the second this little microphone gets in my hands, I feel like I'm a freaking pop star. The reading slump I am about to be in after finishing this one.